Changsheng. I became a 1,000-year-old constable. Introduction. I even take 2 different fruits. One increases lifespan for thousands of years, and one increases its strength day by day. Ning's soul pierced through a foreign world and set a small goal for himself. To become his constable for 1,000 years first. Ning has 3 major quotes. The first quote. Not driven by profit, although you may miss some opportunities, you will definitely not suffer losses. The second quote. Living a long life is not enough, why not live a good life from the beginning? The third quote. If you can get along, if you can't get along, negotiate. If you can't get along, you have to take action, so try to pick the wind and keep the ashes clean. Chapter 1. Chuning, do you want to eat grass? You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Mount Sanqing is the most beautiful mountain in the south of the Yangtze River. 120 steps west of the mountain peak on the south side, separated by bamboo trees, one can hear the sound of water, like the sound of a bell ringing, and one's heart is filled with joy. Cutting bamboo to take the path, I see a small pond below, and the water is particularly clear. The whole stone serves as the bottom, near the shore, and the rolling stone serves as the bottom, forming the D, the U, the Zhai, and the rock. Green trees and verdant vines, swaying and adorned with intricate patterns, scattered and draped. Moving forward, I see a mountain. The mountain has a small mouth, as if there is light. Entering from the mouth, initially extremely narrow, only then can one connect with others. After walking dozens of steps, it suddenly became clear that there was a snake in between, measuring 9 zhang and 7 feet in length, so he pulled out his legs and ran. Encounter a Taoist temple and stop. Help, open the door. Ning was ringing the iron bell on the door of the Taoist temple. He just climbed the mountain to relax. He thought that Mount Sanqing was so big that he didn't need to follow the developed tourist routes. He didn't expect to meet a giant snake. Along the way, one of the shoes ran away, his clothes were punctured by thorns, and his phone was even more frightened when he saw a giant snake in the cave. I finally saw a Taoist temple and immediately knocked on the door for help. A long time later, he heard a commotion behind the door. The gate of the Taoist temple was pushed open, and a young Taoist appeared at the door. Who are you? Daodong's long hair was raised with a hairpin, tied with a sky-blue scarf, and his eyes were bright and lively. Ning walked towards the Taoist temple with one foot, but Dao Tong pushed lightly. Ning felt a huge force hitting him, and he stumbled back a few steps. Little Taoist, there's a big snake behind me. Hurry up and let me in, close the door and report to the police. Being pushed down by a young Taoist, Ning didn't think too much, just assumed that he had run for too long and felt weak. There's no big snake. There really is, just following closely behind me. Ning was afraid that the little Taoist would not believe him, so he pointed to the clothes on his body that had been pierced by thorns on the mountain. He had not felt it before, but when he stopped, he immediately felt the burning pain from the skin cut by the thorns. There should be no loud noise in front of the Taoist temple. Please leave quickly. After the little Taoist finished speaking, he took a few steps back and was about to close the door. Ning reached out to block the door, feeling a bit angry and saying, "How could you cultivators be so cold-blooded and not save their lives? Without a big snake, you shouldn't make trouble without reason. How could it not be?" Ning turned around to look, but was startled and made a sound. The giant snake figure on the mountain road behind him disappeared. Can't it be hiding? Just as Ning was muttering, the little Taoist suddenly closed the door. Ning. After about a minute, the little Taoist walked back and forth, opened the door, and handed a peach to Ning. After eating this peach, you can go down the mountain in the same way. Ning, who had long been exhausted from running, said, "Thank you, and then picked up the peach and started gnawing on it. Peach juice entered his mouth, carrying sweet saliva. Chuning swore that he had never eaten such a delicious peach in his life. "Thank you very much, little Taoist. I wonder if it's possible to quench my thirst with another one." The little Taoist gave Chuning a deep glance and turned to walk inside the Taoist temple. This time, the door was not closed, but Chuning did not enter while the little Taoist was not around. He wanted the little Taoist not to let himself in, perhaps because the masters of the Taoist temple were not there. The little Taoist received instructions from the masters not to let strangers in. It was still 1 minute, and the little Taoist brought out the peach. Chuning thanked him again, but this time he ate a bit slower. After finishing the peaches and looking at the tightly closed door, Chuning didn't rest. For some reason, after eating these 2 peaches, he felt that his strength had recovered. Although the little Taoist pointed him to the original way down the mountain, Chuning did not intend to go down the same way, in case the giant snake was waiting on the road. He had never seen such a big snake before in his life, and he might have become a demon. The Taoist temple is located on the mountainside, and Chuning chose to descend from the other side. On the downhill road, Chuning also looked helpless. At the age of 30, he led a company to go public and achieved financial freedom. Every day, besides looking at stocks, he also invited some female internet celebrities. Poor people can only observe their appearance, but they can enter their path. Just playing too much, Chuning became increasingly bored. Especially for those big anchors with graceful figures, fans may not know that they are too clear, they are all just playing pranks. He began to tire of these decadent days. Life was not just about the woman in front of him, but also about the countryside and mountains and rivers. "This time, I am also taking a different path to experience the pristine and undeveloped scenery of mountains and rivers. I never expected to encounter a giant snake. It has been proven that playing with vulgarity is still reliable, while playing with elegance carries risks." After walking so cautiously for dozens of minutes, Chuning breathed a sigh of relief as he saw the fertile fields at the bottom of the mountain right in front of him. However, at this moment, a black shadow flew up from the fertile field and swallowed a bloody mouthful towards him. "I'm really sorry for you." Chuning never expected that this giant snake would ambush in Yangtian. "What kind of grudges do I have with you? I am not Su Xian, I have never lived with you before." At the last moment of his life, Chuning, who knew he couldn't run away, gritted his teeth and made a sliding shovel, making the final move. "Sway, die. Where am I?" Chuning opened her eyes in a daze, looking around. Inexplicably, pictures of the extremely dilapidated old earthen houses on the internet with a refrigerator appeared in her mind. A house built of yellow mud, with a raincoat hanging on the wall, and an earthen stove on the left side of the wall. "My family is in ruins." Chuning smelled the quilt covering her body, emitting a musty smell. "I was rescued by the villagers at the foot of the mountain and brought home." The next moment, Chuning suddenly had a lot of information in her mind, and her whole person was spinning around. When she was sober again, Chuning had a complex expression. He didn't die in the mouth of the giant snake, or rather he died. It's not important anyway, what's important is that his soul is now piercing onto a 15-year-old boy. The boy is also called Chuning. He is an orphan. "My father was a martial artist and also a constable in Ning County during his lifetime. Unfortunately, the original owner's father had not been a constable for long, and the money had not been recovered for a few years. Once, he drank too much at a painting boat and accidentally stumbled on his left foot and drowned in the river while searching for a book garden. www.Jiaoxi.com. Leave him as an only son and an old woman. The old woman was the aunt of the original owner's father, who was also an orphan. She was raised by this aunt and became a martial arts master, becoming a constable. She then bought a residence in the city and brought her over. Since the death of the original owner's father, the original owner has been weak and sickly. Although this old lady takes care of her, she is also elderly and cannot do much work. The family is becoming increasingly difficult day by day, and can only rely on some of the old savings left by her father. After eating for 5 years, I have almost eaten up my old savings. Life has become increasingly difficult, and coupled with the drought, many ordinary people have no harvest in their fields. The price of grain has risen, and their families have no money to buy grain anymore. The original owner just fainted from hunger and was pierced by his soul. Chuning stood up from the bed and walked to the door. The courtyard was bare, with only a green spot. A hunched figure was squatting and pulling out the grass on the ground. For some reason, Chuning's heart was sore. In modern times, do not trample on the lawn casually, it is to protect the grass. But here, not trampling is to one day be able to uproot grass to satisfy hunger. The bare ground is not without grass, but has already been eaten up. Perhaps upon hearing the commotion, the hunched figure turned its head and revealed a wrinkled face that had been ravaged by wind and frost. Her temples were slightly white, and her lips were cracked in many places. However, at this moment, the old man was happy and said, "Xiaoning, you're awake. You should go back to bed and lie down for a while. Once the old lady has pulled out the grass and cooked it, you can eat it." "Auntie, I don't want to eat grass." The old man was taken aback and said, "Okay, the old lady knows. Next time, give Ninger something else to pull." Chapter 2. 1 bowl of rice, 1 plate of grass, fragrant thief. You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, I ate a bowl of grass. Chuning did not lie back in bed, but sat by the door and began to think. From the memory of the original owner, it is known that the dynasty in which the original owner lived was called the Liang dynasty. The Liang dynasty was not a society where all people were inferior except for those who were highly educated, but rather a dynasty where martial artists were highly respected. Warriors can hold positions in the government, and the higher their strength, the greater their official position. In a world relying on force, reading and understanding are not very important. If the reason doesn't make sense, then let's talk about physics. It is rumored that the founding emperor of the Liang dynasty could reverse the river with just one palm, comparable to a ferry. In the memory of the original owner, only the realm of a warrior is known as a disciple or a master, and further up, the original owner does not know. It seems that only by practicing martial arts can one stand out. Chuning understands very well that in a world where martial artists are highly respected, even if he relies on some knowledge from the modern world, it is difficult to make a fortune by doing business. Without the protection of force, wealth is difficult to retain. To practice martial arts, one needs martial arts secrets, but the martial arts secrets of the great Liang dynasty were held by the court, some martial artists, and sections. Ordinary people who want to learn martial arts through apprenticeship pay tens of taels of money, and they have to work as oxen and horses at their master's house for several years to start learning martial arts. The sect is too far from Ning County, and it is said that the nearest martial arts sect is located hundreds of miles away in the capital city. The only way out for the poor is to attend official schools, where learning martial arts is free. Chuning's father came out of the school, but martial artists who came out of the school were not allowed to pass on martial arts to future generations, because this martial arts secret belongs to the court, and if it is taught privately, it would be a serious crime. Although the school does not require tuition fees or apprenticeship, it has strict requirements. Before the age of 17, it can lift 200 pounds of stone pillars to the top of its head. So it's similar to public schools and private schools, where private schools have no requirements but require money, while public schools have requirements for qualifications. Chuning whispered in his heart that the original owner could only lift a stone pillar of up to 40 pounds, and given 2 years, it was impossible for it to grow to 200 pounds of strength. His gaze fell on several stone pillars in the yard, and Chuning walked over. These were the pillars that his father had built before his death. 5 years ago, he was able to lift 30 pounds of stone pillars. The reason why my strength hasn't increased too much in the past 5 years is actually quite simple: my nutrition can't keep up. In fact, this is also the reason why it is difficult for ordinary poor families in this world to become martial artists. Which poor family can make their children eat meat suddenly? Without nutrition, there is no strength. Actually, 40 pounds is not weak anymore. Compared to my past self, I was able to hold a woman from the beginning, but now I have to choose to lie down. The original owner's strength is not small. Chuning walked up to the stone pillar and grabbed the handle of the 30-pound stone pillar. With a force, the stone pillar was lifted up. Sleeping in bed, it's so easy, it shouldn't be. Without thinking about it, Chuning tried to lift 40 and 60 pounds again, both of which were easily lifted. Something's wrong. The original owner's body doesn't have that much strength. Chuning changed the stone pillars all the way and finally stopped on the 90-pound stone pillar. Can lift 90 pounds, but cannot persist for 5 seconds. I'm still because I haven't eaten enough. If I have eaten enough, it's not impossible to weigh 100 pounds of stone pillars. Chuning's eyes lit up and she softly called out, "System." No response. System binding. System loading 10%, system loading 20%. The system loads 99%. Okay, the system failed to load. 3 minutes later, Chuning gave up talking to himself. He had no system. Is it because of the physical changes brought about by my soul piercing? Just as Chuning was pondering, the old lady walked into the door with a disappointed expression on her face, carrying a Diablo basket. Yesterday, Xianxia wanted to eat something else, so she went out to search, but after searching for a long time, she couldn't find any other grass. Seeing Chuning squatting in front of the stone pier, the old lady curiously asked, "Xiaoning, what are you doing?" "Auntie, the child can lift 80 pounds of giant stones now." Chuning spoke and lifted an 80-pound boulder in the shocked eyes of the old woman. Pop! The bamboo basket in the old woman's hand fell off and she stood still for a few seconds before walking over excitedly. "Xiaoning, come with me into the house." In the cramped room, Chuning knelt down in front of the original owner's father's altar. The old woman spoke a lot of words, mostly about the blessings of the original father and the manifestation of ancestors. Chuning caught a key point. My deceased cheap father was a martial arts master. According to the policy of the Dalian court, as long as future generations can enter the school and stay for 6 months, they can obtain the position of constable in the county government. It is somewhat similar to the priority for family members of modern employees to enter the workforce. But thinking of his own strength, he was afraid that the old man would be too old to remember the numbers clearly. He reminded him, "Auntie, entering school requires 200 pounds of strength, and I can only weigh at most 100 pounds. My strength is completely insufficient." The old woman didn't answer, but walked to the wooden box on the side of the bed and dug out a piece of clothing for Chuning to put on. Chuning put it on according to her words, only to find that the clothes were very loose, and his arm was still quite far from the cuffs. This reminded him of the scene when he stole adult clothes when he was a child. This piece of clothing should not belong to the original owner, but to the original owner's father. The old woman pulled up the cuffs of Chuning's pants, tightened her waist a bit, and then looked at Chuning, whispering, "We Xiaoning are also adults." Following the old lady out of the door, Chuning asked several times on the way and finally found out who the old lady had brought him to look for. Constable Huang from the county town was a colleague of his father back then. This is to request that Constable Huang give a recommendation letter to Xianxia. The admission standard for the school is 200 pounds of strength and under the age of 17. Age cannot be considered false, but in terms of strength, the school has a lot of room for maneuver. Just like those key high schools in their past lives, they require a certain score line to enter, but if they have money, they can also sponsor enrollment. Chuning has no money, so he can only pass the power. Just standing in front of the Huang family's mansion, Chuning was a bit curious. As a constable, why is the gap so big? It's like a colleague from a company, one living in a rented apartment in the city, while the other lives in a luxurious villa with a large garden and private swimming pool. The backyard of the Huang family mansion. Huang Zhongtai was fishing in the pond in the courtyard, listening to the butler's report and lost in thought. Has Aunt Chu Ping come to visit with her son? Who is Chu Ping? After thinking for a while, he finally remembered who Chu Ping was. 5 years ago, a constable drowned shortly after becoming a constable, and he had no personal relationship with Chu Ping. At this moment, I came to my door with Chu Ping's son. Huang Zhongtai rubbed his fingers on the armrests of the chair and quickly guessed the origin of the elderly and young. The day of enrollment in the school is coming soon. I want to write a recommendation letter to practice martial arts in the school. As long as I can stay in the school for 3 months, I can find a job in the yamen. This son of Chu Ping is obviously not strong enough, otherwise he wouldn't have asked for himself. It's not worth using connections just for the sake of the Chu family who have no relationship. Reply to them, saying that I am not feeling well today and unable to see guests. Let them invite me back. Huang Zhongtai made a decision, and the butler turned around and was about to leave. At this moment, the buoy on the surface of the pond sank, and Huang Zhongtai's eyes lit up. With a flick of his right hand, a red carp was lifted out of the water. Surprisingly, it's a carp. There was a hint of surprise in Huang Zhongtai's eyes as he shouted to the butler who had already walked out of the backyard, "Go to the door and see what the Chu family child is doing at this moment, take note of his demeanor and behavior, and report to me quickly." The butler hurriedly left, but returned in just 3 minutes. "Master, the child from the Chu family is standing in front of the door, with a straight posture and a calm expression, without anger or nervousness." At the age of 15, despite being left behind by elders outside the door for more than a quarter of an hour, one can still maintain a calm expression without the anger of humiliation. Whether it is good at hiding emotions or truly patient, this kind of temperament far surpasses that of peers. Huang Zhongtai got up from his chair and walked back to the study, writing a note. "Leave this to them, saying that I am physically unwell and unable to meet guests. I am aware of your intentions and can take this note to find Professor Liu from the school." "Yes, sir." The butler took the note, but after seeing the words on the paper, his pupils contracted for a moment. Huang Zhongtai looked at his butler with a surprised look and nodded. "Either you don't help, since you want to help, you need to fulfill this favor." "Master, don't worry, I know what to say." The butler understood his master's meaning. At the entrance of Huang's house, the old woman grabbed Chu Ning's hand, and Chu Ning could feel her aunt's unease. Her heart was far from as calm as it seemed on the surface. He knew in his heart that the relationship between this constable Huang and his father's colleagues was probably not deep. Otherwise, the old lady wouldn't have come knocking at this time either. Just as Chu Ning was thinking that the other party might not be willing to help, the door of the Huang family slowly opened. A middle-aged man dressed as a butler walked out quickly. "Madam, I'm really sorry. I heard that the old lady and the young master of Chu came to our door and were overjoyed. We were supposed to personally welcome them, but the old master has been feeling unwell recently, and the doctor has advised him not to get out of bed." As soon as the door was opened, the butler sincerely expressed his apologies and then said, "The old lady's purpose is already known to the master. He knows that your son also has the ability to practice martial arts. The master is very excited and has been saying that Tiger father has no son, and Chu brother should feel relieved if he has a spirit underground. He even specially instructed me to give this to Lady Chu." Listening to the butler's words, the old lady took the note and was very excited when she saw the words clearly on it. Chu Ning also sighed in her heart when she found the Shuyuan website www.jiaoxi.com. Indeed, those who are rich and powerful, no matter what era they are always intelligent people. Look at how smooth their words are. Those who don't know the truth really think that Mr. Huang had such a deep friendship with his father before his death. And not only did they speak well, but they also handled this matter openly. Ning just glanced at the handwriting on the note. Ning is the son of my good friend and now has the ability to practice martial arts. I hope Brother Lu can take more care of me. Brother Taizhong is extremely grateful. The old lady kept bowing and expressing gratitude to Ning before leaving, but when she returned home, the old lady asked Ning to rest in bed, and Ning was indeed powerless. The energy from eating a bowl of grass has run out this time. Watching the old lady bend down and grope under the earthen stove for a while, finally walking steadily out of the room with a small object wrapped in red paper, Ning also felt some emotion. The old man only ate half a bowl of grass, and it was unclear where the strength came from that allowed her to walk. Ning, who had fallen asleep in a daze, smelled the aroma of rice. Opening her eyes, a bowl of fragrant rice was placed on the table, while the old lady was licking the rice charred on the spatula in front of the stove. Where does the rice come from at home? In just an instant, Ning understood that the old lady should have pawned the last bit of jewelry. Xiaoning is awake, come and eat quickly. The old lady heard the commotion behind her and put down the spatula. I just saw you sleeping soundly, but my aunt didn't call you, so she ate it herself first. Okay. Ning didn't reveal it, sat at the table, picked up bowls and chopsticks, and savored the fragrant white rice mixed with a few grains of salt-fried grass. He ate the rice one by one. P.S. Book enthusiasts are meeting again, the new book is starting to set sail. Chapter 3. The Art of Drawing Circles. You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, at night, Ning had a dream. In my dream, I met the Taoist boy in Mount Sanqing. At this moment, the little Taoist's expression of grievance was met with criticism from an old Taoist. 2 evergreen fruits. Taking one can prolong life for an ordinary person for thousands of years. Although taking the second fruit does not increase lifespan, the energy stored in the fruit increases its strength day by day. You are harming this person. The snake spirit was subdued by a teacher and was responsible for guarding the mountain gate. It dared to swallow the essence of heaven and earth, but dared not eat people. This person rushed in, and the snake spirit would frighten him away at most. But if you ate these 2 fruits for this person, the snake spirit had a murderous heart. If you swallow this person, you can reach 1,000,000 years of cultivation and escape from the cave. Ning was stunned when she heard these words. Is the giant snake swallowing itself because it ate 2 long fruits? So was that little Taoist kind-hearted and did something bad? Master, I understand my mistake. This person is an ordinary person who coincidentally broke into the blessed land of the cave. 1 day in the blessed land lasts for 10 years in the mortal world. If you are kind-hearted, give him a sip of spiritual spring water to replenish his lifespan for 10 years. It was an adventure for you to give him 2 evergreen fruits, but this person's life is thin and he has no blessings to enjoy. It is also predetermined in the dark. Don't make any more mistakes afterwards. I understand now. I'll go to your uncle's end. Ning woke up, his eyes flickering. The old Taoist placed him behind and cursed. If the content of the dream was true, would his body inherit the effect of longevity after his soul was pierced? According to reason, soul piercing is not necessary, but Ning's strength increased by several tens of pounds on the first day he crossed over. What if it were inherited? Every day its strength increases. It's not difficult to verify. Outside the door. The rain is dripping. Inside the door. Ning sat leaning against the threshold. He is the only one at home. The old lady carried a bamboo basket and went out to pick wild vegetables. After a thunderstorm, thunder dung will grow on the grassland's stone surface. It is an algal plant that is similar to fungus and has an extremely delicious taste when used to make soup. He has eaten it several times already. It has been 7 days since he crossed over to now. 4 days ago, Ning County finally experienced a rainfall, ending the drought. Later, it seemed that the heavens had rained for 3 consecutive days to compensate the people. Although grain prices have not dropped much yet, at least some wild vegetables are slowly growing. The object wrapped in the red paper that the old lady took out from the stove that day, he now knows what it is. A pair of bracelets were bought by my father for my aunt after he became a constable. Previously, there was no rice to cook at home, and the old lady didn't even pawn it. Not only did she keep it as a memory, but she also used this jade bracelet as a life-saving money. I have been weak since I was young and often fall ill. Keeping this jade bracelet can save my life if one day I fall ill again. In the end, she was pawned by the old lady and exchanged for a bag of brown rice. A jade bracelet worth 20 taels of silver, if it were for a bag of brown rice that used to cost only 100 won, to be honest, Ning would feel a bit distressed. But the old lady still did it this way. Because the registration time for the school is approaching. Let Ning eat at least enough every day, so that she can have strength and pass the school assessment. After 7 days, Ning verified her guess and the effect of the fruit was inherited by this body. His strength does indeed increase dramatically every day. Since the strength has been inherited, the difference in lifespan should also be inherited. This verification gave him a glimmer of hope, although he didn't gain much strength every day, fluctuating around 1 pound. Sometimes it's over a pound, sometimes it's less than a pound. He has also studied the reasons for the instability. If you eat more, you will grow more. If you eat better, you will also grow more. If you don't eat anything for a day, the power of growth is almost negligible. If you eat the same food for 2 days, you will gain more strength through exercise than without exercise. Ning judged that the energy contained in that longevity fruit was like water in a reservoir, stored in his body and intercepted by a dam. The amount of water he could release each time depended on how big he could open the gate. The factors that affect the size of the gate are exercise and food, and whether it is also related to whether he is growing at this stage may have some relationship, but the proportion should be very small. After the rain, the sky clears and the rising sun rises in the east. Ning changed into clean clothes early this morning. After drinking 2 bowls of rice porridge and eating 3 eggs, my aunt left home looking forward. Today is the day for enrollment at Ning County School. The school is located in the east of the city, which is also the residential area for wealthy families in the city. Compared to other low-rise houses, the east of the city is mostly a high-gate courtyard, and the home of the Constable Huang is also located in the east of the city. Ning rushed to the school, and there were already many parents who came to sign up with their children at the entrance. The entire school gate was bustling with activity, and with some onlookers, the street outside the school gate was surrounded and impassable. Finally squeezing towards the entrance of the school, I saw 2 soldiers guarding in front of the door, holding long spears and their eyes shining brightly. The people around dared not approach a foot away. Except for the applicants, no one is allowed to enter. Under the soldiers' gaze, many of the people who were pushed to the front desperately retreated. In previous years, some who were not very eye-catching were too close, and as a result, they were pierced by a long spear. Ning walked towards the door upon seeing the situation, and the 2 soldiers glanced at him but did not stop him. With their eyesight, it can be seen that Ning is not yet 17 years old. As for whether his strength is sufficient, he will have to go to school for assessment to know. Stepping into the gate of the school, there was a martial arts arena in front of us. At this moment, there were already dozens of young people on the field, but most of them had expressions of excitement and nervousness, standing alone with little conversation. Before facing a major exam that could change their lives, no one had the interest to chat. On the side of the martial arts arena, some teenagers are queuing up at a table, with two middle-aged men sitting behind the table. One man is responsible for asking questions, and the other is responsible for writing and registering. Chuning also consciously waited behind to register, but he was thinking in his heart, where should he go to find that teacher Lu? Ask the person from the school. Would this be too obvious? Just as Chuning was thinking, all the candidates in front of him had registered. What is your surname and name? Where is your home? Chuning, his home is in the alley of the four hutongs in the south of the city. Chuning quickly answered and asked the man casually, do our elders and relatives have any living martial artists? Father Chu Ping was a martial arts master and a former constable, but passed away 5 years ago. The man did not ask again, but the person on the right who was responsible for writing and recording the name of Chuning had to put down the pen. Chuning glanced at the row of names on the paper and quickly added, however, my father and Constable Huang were also good friends before we passed away. Constable Huang was very happy to learn that I was going to attend the school and even asked me to contact Professor Lu after I entered the school. At this point, Chuning couldn't care if it would be troublesome to speak so directly, because he saw the tricks in the registration. On the paper, there were the names of the candidates who participated in the assessment this time, but Chuning found that some of their names had dots behind them, while others did not. The dots are very small, just like a period. Other candidates may not notice anything, but as the CEO of a listed company, Chuning has dealt with many leaders in his past life and heard many interesting stories about them. There is an interesting story about the approval document among them. Leaders usually have hidden secrets in their instruction documents, which only subordinates can understand. One of the mysteries is to add a period after the written instructions. The leader's instructions to agree, please expedite the process, or settle the final payment as soon as possible, seem to require the people below to act quickly, but as soon as they see that there is no end, they know that the leader is not paying attention to this matter, so it should be postponed and continued. Of course, the main reason why leaders engage in this kind of mystery is to dismiss those who drag on relationships and favors. People who use this method are not only happy to do things, but also those below can understand the leader's thoughts and not really engage in illegal operations. It is absolutely impossible to say that there is no cat trick on the registration paper in front of me. Sure enough, the man who picked up the pen stood it up again after hearing Chuning's words. The man on the left asked, which yellow constable is that? Huang Zhongtai, Uncle Huang. The two men looked at each other with an inexplicable expression in their eyes. The next moment, the man who was writing pointed a small dot after Chuning's name. Although this dot is not as big as some people's names, compared to those who do not have dots, I am still decent. He now understands that those names with large dots after them should have a strong relationship and require special care, and then they are the ones he usually takes care of. No matter what your background is, the martial arts apprenticeship test is to select successors for the court, and no one can engage in favoritism or fraud. If you cannot pass the test, even if you know the chief instructor, it is useless. Go to the Shuyuan website www.jiaoxi.com to queue up and wait for the group test. The man on the left suddenly shouted sternly, with a stern and upright face. Chuning's face turned pale and he quickly pleaded guilty, but his heart was filled with slander. If it weren't for the circle behind his name, I would have almost believed it. The reason why this teacher came out so quickly is nothing more than that there is still a queue behind him, and the conversation just now was also heard by the candidates behind him, in order to demonstrate the impartial scene of the school. Chuning walked towards the martial arts arena with a frightened expression, and the candidates in line threw angry and contemptuous eyes at him. These people all heard the teacher in charge of registration shouting loudly just now, and in their hearts, they already regarded Chuning as the kind of person who wanted to take shortcuts. Fortunately, the teaching was very fair, which gave them a little more confidence. Chuning felt a bit helpless when he saw the eyes of these young people. They were really a group of innocent children. Half an hour later, the school gate closed and all candidates registered. The two teachers also put away their names and walked towards the college, whispering as they walked. Several candidates from this class have good family backgrounds. In terms of background, it should be Mr. Huang who is the eldest, but that person named Chuning may not have a deep friendship with Mr. Huang. General Huang was promoted to the rank of chief inspector as early as last year, but Chuning still referred to him as Constable Huang, indicating that his friendship was not deep. Since his father was also a constable before his death, based on my judgment, he should have sought help from General Huang's family. General Huang may have decided to help out for a while. Well, I guessed the same way, but although Chuning and Huang Zongchang don't have a deep friendship, if Huang Zongchang sells this favor, then let him pass. If the successor is powerless for 3 months, they will also be eliminated. Chapter 4. Lu Jiaoxi's Suggestions. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. At the martial arts arena, some miscellaneous workers brought in stone pillars, and the candidates also received their respective numbers. Ning glanced at her license plate. 68, a good omen using numbers instead of names. The school's statement is to prevent favoritism. Ning sneered at this statement, as the teachings had long been clear on which codes needed special attention. There were no less than 200 candidates in the entire martial arts arena. Ning just stood at the arena and listened to the conversations of these candidates for a while, knowing that half of them came to join the fun. These people who came to join the fun are like Ning, who is still 1 or 2 years away from the age of 17. They came to register just to experience the atmosphere and accumulate some experience. Just like the college entrance examination, wealthy children can register for it in their sophomore year, allowing them to experience the atmosphere of the exam in advance. School registration is free of charge, but each candidate only has 3 registration opportunities. If they fail the assessment after 3 registrations, even if they are under 17 years old, they are not allowed to register again. Not setting this rule, I'm afraid those children under the age of 10 will have to come over and sign up to experience it. The school workers arranged the stone pillars, and the teachers began to group them according to their numbers. With more than 200 people, each person had 3 more opportunities to lift the stone pillars. In order to speed up the assessment process, the school arranged for multiple candidates to take the test simultaneously. Ning was assigned to the 5th group, responsible for assessing a fair-skinned and bearded instructor. Ning's group consists of 6 people, and the first 5 have all failed, while he is the last one. Concentrate and calm down, adjust your breathing, and avoid being disturbed by others. Walking up to Sherdun, the teacher suddenly said something, and Ning was taken aback. During the assessment of the first 5, the teacher remained silent. It seems that Constable Huang's face has played a role. Just a few reminders are useless, as I still can't lift a 200-pound stone pillar myself. Ning bent down and grabbed the handle above the stone pillar with both hands while thinking, then slowly exerted force. However, when the stone pillar was raised to his waist, he had no strength to continue rising. Ning gritted her teeth, her veins bulging in her hands, but in the end, her strength was weak. She let go of the stone pillar and fell to the ground. Bang! The stone pier fell to the ground and shattered into 2 halves. Ning is confused. Is this stone pier all a tofu residue project? The bureaucrats of this era are even darker than in previous lives. The expression on the goat's beard remained unchanged, but he just said to the worker on one side, "The stone pier is broken. Bring another one." Quickly, the worker carried a new stone pillar and placed it back in front of Ning. The size and appearance are exactly the same as those of the previous stone piers. "Continue," said Goat Huzi in a cold voice. Ning rubbed his arms, then clenched the stone pillar handle with both hands and gave it a light try. This time, his expression was first shocked, and then returned to normal, but his eyes lit up. He understood. So the school cheated like this. Damn it, you really know how to play. The previous stone pillar, he held the handle and gently exerted force. The stone pillar remained motionless, but when he exerted a little force on this stone pillar, it actually moved. This indicates that the newly replaced stone pier is much lighter than before, and he can lift it now. There is no difference in appearance between the two stone piers. When Chuning lifted the stone pillar to the knee position, he had a clear idea. The weight of the stone pillar should be around 100 pounds, and his current strength is around 120 pounds. Lifting the stone pillar is completely fine. However, He Bing did not choose to directly lift the stone pillar, but pretended to struggle and lifted it to his waist. Then, as if his hands could not bear it, he lowered the stone pillar and voluntarily gave up this second opportunity. Goat beard teaching. On her last attempt, Chuning finally lifted the stone pillar above her head, with her face flushed and her arms trembling slightly. 1 breath, 2 breaths. 5 breaths pass. Upon hearing what the teacher had said, Chuning didn't know if he was too excited or weak. He let go of the stone pillar and dropped it directly from above his head towards the ground, shattering it once again. Goat Huzi gave Chuning a meaningful glance and said, "Go wait at the passage area." Chuning bowed to the teacher and then walked towards the passing area. After 15 minutes, all candidates completed their assessments, and a total of 30.6 candidates passed the assessment. Some of the candidates who failed lowered their heads and wept bitterly. They were already 16 years old, and this failure meant that they would never have the chance to enter school again. Some are full of regret, which is something they can continue to take next year. These failed candidates were all lured away by the side door by the servants of the school, and in the end, there were only 30.6 of them who passed in the entire martial arts arena. Congratulations on passing the assessment and becoming students of the school. You have been very good candidates this year, with the strongest weighing 320 pounds and 7 weighing over 250 pounds. As soon as General Tutor Shi's words were spoken, all the candidates, including Chuning, looked at the man and woman at the forefront. This is the best performance in this assessment. The man lifted 320 pounds, while the female student also lifted 300 pounds. Starting from tomorrow, Chen and Lu will teach you how to practice martial arts. You can go home today and arrive at the school before Chen time tomorrow. General Shi introduced the two teachers around him, and Chuning suddenly realized that this goat-bearded teacher was Lu teacher. No wonder he would speak up to remind himself. Should I give the note to Professor Lu while everyone is dispersed later? Chuning did not dwell on this for too long. When he saw the candidates scattering and Lu Jiaoxi leaving, he quickly followed suit. Student Chuning, thank you very much for Lu Jiaoxi's warning just now. Chuning respectfully bowed to Lu Jiaoxi. Lu Junshan stopped and said, "How much real strength do you have?" Chuning was taken aback. Was he asking so openly and openly? But seeing no one else around, he whispered, "The student's true strength is around 120 pounds. Lu Junshan's mouth twitched, and Chuning's strength was similar to what he had judged, which was also why he asked the servants to take the 110-pound stone mound. The sentence he said to the laborer was a secret language that only the students in the school could understand, referring to a 110-pound stone pier. If it was of other weights, there would be other explanations. So you pretend to be struggling. Students feel that this is more realistic to avoid being noticed by those with intentions. Lu Junshan fell silent, thinking so thoughtfully at such a young age. Chuning saw Lu Junshan silent and took out the note from his sleeve. Lu Jiaoxi, this is what Uncle Huang asked me to give you. After taking the note and glancing at it, Lu Junshan put it away and said calmly, "Since General Huang asked me to take care of you, if you have any questions about martial arts in the future, you can always come to my yard and ask me." After Lu Junshan finished speaking, he left, but Chuning was confused. Huang Zongchang. Isn't it Constable Huang? So Constable Huang was promoted from director to director. A few seconds later, Chuning burst into a bitter smile, and Lu Jiaoxi was instructing himself. The lies I have shown to the outside world about my close relationship with Mr. Huang's family may have long been exposed by the teachers in the school. If our friendship is really deep, how could we not even know that General Huang has been promoted? I can't blame the old lady either. As an elderly person, she wouldn't know about these things. It's already good to remember that Mr. Huang and Mr. Cheap were colleagues. Huangfu. Did you come to express your gratitude by passing the assessment? Huang Zhongtai listened to the butler's report and also smiled when looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoxuan.com. Yes, Chuning said that you and his father were good friends and elders before our passing. Naturally, we need to inform you so that you can also be happy. The Chu family is in the south of the city, and based on time, I guess Chuning should have left the school and come here. This kid is actually very smart. He wants to kill my identity as an uncle. Master, I see Chuning knows your current position mentioned in his words that you have been transferred to the position of chief inspector. Oh. Huang Zhongtai rhythmically tapped his fingers on the table. If Chuning were smart, he would have been talking about Huang Sheriff before the assessment began. The several teachers in the school were all smart people, and from these words, it was clear that he did not have a deep relationship with the Chu family and would not tell Chuning about his current official position. Because they couldn't figure out why they were helping Chuning. There is only one possibility, which is that Chuning's talent displayed in the assessment is very good, which made Lu Junshan feel a pity for his talent and would only give him some guidance. Since old Lu had a heart for cherishing talent, and Chuning was so grateful. Huang Zhongtai pondered for a moment, I'm feeling unwell, so it's not convenient to see him. You go to the warehouse and give him some nourishing herbs as gifts, telling him not to disappoint Uncle Huang's expectations. The butler laughed at these words and said, Don't worry, sir. I understand what to do. A few minutes later, Chuning walked out of the Huang family 100 meters away carrying a large bundle of medicinal herbs, and her expression also became somewhat strange. They are all human spirits. This once again reminded him not to take advantage of the vast information he has obtained in the real world and underestimate people in this world. Chapter 5. Roommate Ji Kun. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, the next day, it will be sunny. Chuning was wearing clothes that were noticeably larger in size, carrying a backpack to bid farewell to her aunt and head to school. The clothes were left by his cheap father, and the old lady has been retailoring them in the past few days. The size of the clothes has been reduced a bit, but they are still a bit loose when worn on Chuning. It's not that he can't be cut too tight, but he's at the age of growing his body. If he's cut too tight, he's afraid he won't be able to wear it in less than a month or two. Auntie, you should eat more when you're alone at home. After Xianxia finishes 6 months of studying at school, you'll be able to work as a servant and receive a salary. What I saved is that you should practice martial arts well in the school, be patient when facing difficulties, and not show off your temporary energy. Chuning listened quietly to the old lady's advice, even though the old man had already said these words several times last night. I'm leaving, Auntie. Don't pull out the grass and eat it anymore. You little brat, you pulled out all the grass in the yard yesterday, and even if I wanted to eat it, I didn't have to eat it. Chuning chuckled. The vitality of the weeds was still very strong. After the rain these past few days, there was greenery in the yard again. He was afraid that if he wasn't at home, his aunt would save money and pull out the grass to eat. He not only pulled out the grass yesterday, but also borrowed a total of 10 taels of silver from his neighbors to buy rice and filled the rice jar. If he hadn't entered the school, his neighbors might not have borrowed it, but once he entered the school, these neighbors would have been more talkative. These neighbors all know that as long as he stays in the school for 6 months, he can go to the yamen as a business assistant. Even if he doesn't stay for 6 months, he has learned martial arts secrets. After coming out, he can repay the money by serving as a guardian for a wealthy family or joining a gang as a thug. Half an hour before Changsheng, Chuning arrived at the school and found his dormitory number according to the dormitory list posted on the wall. Room B3. This is a double dormitory with 2 wooden beds and a small courtyard inside. It has a stove, a bathtub, and some stone pillars. Before his roommate arrived, Ning laid out the bedding, put the clothes in the boxes provided by the dormitory, and put the medicinal herbs sent by General Manager Huang on top of the clothes. After finishing these, he picked up the broom in the backyard and started cleaning the moss and weeds. Halfway through the scan, there was a commotion coming from the entrance of the dormitory, and a young man carrying a large wooden box walked in. The boy also saw Ning cleaning up in the yard, immediately put down the wooden box and walked over quickly. "I'm sorry." Bang! The young man walked too fast and didn't notice the moss under his feet. His feet slipped, his feet moved forward, and his upper body fell back. Fortunately, the young man reacted quickly and exerted a strong force from his waist, pulling back the upper body that had fallen back. However, it was unclear whether this force was too strong, causing the person to lean forward again. Finally, he knelt steadily in front of Chuning. Chuning. Youth. 15 minutes later, the two of them cleared the entire yard of moss and weeds. Chuning also knew the boy's name. Ji Kun. Coming from Jijia town below Ning County, unlike Chuning who only exercises his strength by lifting stone pillars, according to Ji Kun himself, he has been practicing martial arts for 2.5 years. Of course, he is not practicing martial arts secrets, but has learned the martial arts techniques of polishing his body from the martial artists in the town. Ji Kun, practicing martial arts for 2.5 years, born in 1996, a dream rap leader. Can still sing, dance, and rap. Ning instinctively continued. What? Ji Kun looked puzzled, but fortunately, a gong sounded at this moment, leaving Ning no need to explain. The sound of the gong will start, and all the students will go to the martial arts arena to gather. When Ning and Ji Kun arrived at the martial arts arena, most of the students had already entered. A few minutes later, Jiaoxi arrived at the martial arts arena. Starting from today, you are all students of the school. Emperor Taizu established the school to select talents. If you achieve success in the future, you should think of serving the country. Jiaoxi's expression was solemn as he looked towards the north, clasping his fists. Ning and others followed suit. After 15 breaths, when Jiaoxi let go, everyone followed suit. Next, I will pass on the mind techniques of your martial arts secret book, day.Mo. This set of martial arts secret books was developed by Taizu back then, and it has 6 layers. Today, I will pass on the first 3 layers of your mnemonic mind techniques. Listening to Professor Chen's words, the students all became excited. They came to the school for this martial arts secret script. Next, Jiaoxi will begin to teach everyone the heart technique and mnemonic of day.Mo. Qi sinks in the elixir field and is transported through 100 meridians. The cohesion first gathers in the cauldron, with 1 charge leading to 10 forces. Ning began to gather qi according to the breathing technique taught by the instructor at the training center. Soon, he realized that there was a force in his body colliding with his meridians. Is this the so-called true transmission of a sentence or a fake scripture of a book? Ning had a feeling that his strength should have increased by 10 pounds at this moment. Guang glanced at the other students. Although they looked very excited, they didn't get too excited. It seems that these students haven't gained much strength. Are you a martial arts genius? Or did the growth fruit come into play? Jiaoxi glanced at many excited students and said, if there is anything you don't understand, you can ask me now. If you don't have 500 pounds of strength to be eliminated from school in 3 months. However, Jiaoxi's words did not make the young people worry. They were all immersed in the excitement of obtaining martial arts mental skills, and as for elimination, young people are always confident and don't think they will lose 500 pounds of strength in 3 months. No one asked, and Jiaoxi didn't care either, so he left straight away. As soon as Jiaoxi left, the other students began to discuss in a low voice, but most of them were talking in pairs, obviously on a roommate basis. Chuning, let's go back to the dormitory first. Ji Kun gave Chuning a glance, and Chuning knew that Ji Kun had something to whisper to her. She then followed Ji Kun back to the dormitory. Chuning, the martial arts master in our clan, is my cousin. He told me that it is important to start practicing martial arts and mental techniques. It is best to combine it with medicinal herbs. This way, if you have a good foundation, you will gain more strength later on. Ji Kun opened the box and took out 6 medicine packages from inside, ready to hand them to Chuning. Chuning waved her hand and refused. With Ji Kun's puzzled gaze, she opened her own box and took out several packages of medicinal herbs from inside. The two exchanged a glance and both smiled. Ji Kun looked at the medicinal herbs in Chuning's medicine bag and exclaimed in surprise, "The quality of these herbs is better than mine, but I haven't heard of a wealthy family surnamed Chu in Ning County." "This is a gift from an elder of mine," Chuning explained briefly, and at the same time, she understood that she owed Mr. Huang even more. "Well, originally I wanted to tell you some insider information about the school, but now it seems unnecessary. You should also know about it." Chuning wanted to say that he didn't know, but after thinking about it, he still didn't say anything. After a brief conversation between the two, Ji Kun was responsible for starting the fire, while Chuning carried water. When Chuning filled the water tank, Ji Kun also lit the fire of the earthen stove and fried the medicinal herbs and water in the pot. The two of them didn't stand in the yard waiting, but went to the school kitchen. The kitchen has already prepared the food, similar to the modern school cafeteria. Each person carries a plate to serve, with 1 meat and 2 vegetarian rice serving to fill the meal. Chuning finished 6 bowls of rice in one breath, leaving Ji Kun stunned. In Ji Kun's opinion, Chuning could afford to use those medicinal herbs, and his family background would definitely not be very poor. Normally, people of their age only have 2 bowls of rice per meal, and their appetite for practicing martial arts can reach 3 bowls. However, these 6 bowls are somewhat beyond his imagination. Chuning gave him the feeling that other students came to the school to study martial arts secrets, and he came to rely on food management to fill up. Ji Kun didn't know that Chuning was at home, and he could only eat 3 bowls of rice a day for 3 meals. He wasn't even half full for 1 meal, and the more he ate, the faster his strength grew. Finally, he had a place to manage his food, so he didn't eat anything special. He only feels 7% full of these 6 bowls. If it weren't for his fear of being too full and inconvenient to practice martial arts, he could have done 8 bowls. The two of them had eaten their fill and left the living room before returning to their own room, at which point the medicine was also cooked. Pour the cooked medicine into their respective bathtubs, then pour in cold water to adjust the temperature. Both of them stripped off their clothes and jumped into the bucket to soak. While soaking, follow the mental technique taught by Jiaoxi to run, Mo Jin. Just after running for a whole week, Chuning's eyes lit up. First, he glanced at Ji Kun and saw that his expression remained unchanged with his eyes closed. He knew that Ji Kun's feelings were different from his. He could clearly feel that as he moved around the world, the airflow in his body would flow to his limbs, and a little heat would seep into his skin, converging into this qi. This qi reaches the top of the head through the Du meridian behind the dantian, and then returns to the dantian along the Ren meridian in front. Every Sunday, Chuning noticed that the liquid in her bathtub would drop by a height of her fingertips. 20 weeks later, the medicine on Chuning's side also bottomed out. He didn't continue to soak it anymore, but came out of the bathtub and glanced at Ji Kun, who still had more than half of the medicine. He didn't choose to disturb Ji Kun, put on his clothes, and walked out of the dormitory door. The martial arts arena is very deserted at this moment, with no one around. Chuning walked up to the row of stone pillars, sorted by weight, and reached the 150-pound stone pillar. He squatted down, bent down, and grasped the concave handle position of the stone pillar, exerting force, and lifted the stone pillar above his head. The stone pier was lifted easily. A stone pier weighing 160 pounds, still lifted, but with some difficulty. 70 pounds of stone mound, lifted to the top of my head, but couldn't hold on to 5 breaths. Although he failed, Chuning's eyes showed an indescribable excitement. On the first day of practicing Bull Demon Power, he unexpectedly gained nearly 60 pounds of strength. It's simply unbelievable. Jiaoxi.com. Chuning did not continue to try or stay in the martial arts arena, but quickly walked towards the direction of the dormitory. He doesn't know how others are doing, but he believes that it's absolutely abnormal to suddenly gain nearly 60 pounds during the first practice. Is it because the martial arts secrets have enlarged the gate for storing the energy of the fruit in one's body? It seems necessary to revise the formula coefficient for the discharge volume at the gate. When Chuning returned to the dormitory, Ji Kun also came out of the bathtub with a confident expression on her face. Chuning, I feel like I can kill a tiger now. She was waving her fists as she spoke. Do you feel like your strength has increased? Chuning asked curiously. That's for sure, although I don't know the specifics, it should weigh that 10 pounds. Ji Kun walked up to the stone pillar in the yard and lifted the 220-pound stone pillar on the ground in one fell swoop. I'm right in my judgment. Indeed, it has increased by 10 pounds. What about you, Chuning? Chuning said, I should also have a foundation of 10 pounds in growth. He is telling the truth, 60 pounds is also considered as a base of 10 pounds. I can gain so much strength on the first day, and it's easy to achieve 500 pounds in 3 months. Ji Kun rolled her eyes and said, it's not that easy. We only had such a miraculous effect on the first day of encountering martial arts secrets. The slower we grow, the slower it grows. My cousin once said that practicing martial arts is a long-term thing, and what we need is to work hard day and night to polish our muscles and bones, step by step. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, Chuning continued. Ji Kun clenched his fist and said, yes, that's what I meant. I didn't expect Chuning to be quite good at summarizing. Let's work together and strive to become martial artists in 3 years. Chuning. Chapter 6. Making money, not affordable. You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, blink for a month. Chuning and Ji Kun's daily lives are 2 points and 1 line. Go to the school cafeteria for a meal at the restaurant, then return to the dormitory yard to practice martial arts after finishing the meal. The same goes for all students in the entire school. Their first goal is to pass the 500-pound assessment for 3 months. On the 15th day, Ji Kun's Bull Demon Power cultivation reached the 2nd level. Chuning still stopped on the 1st floor. This made Chuning understand in his heart that his aptitude in martial arts is not high, but he is not discouraged because he has a cheat tool. With a lifespan of 10,000 years and increasing strength every day, it can compensate for the qualifications in martial arts. Ji Kun, who broke through to the 2nd level in Bull Demon Power, has reached 320 pounds of strength, while his Bull Demon Power is still on the 1st level, but his strength has already reached 280 pounds. You should know that he entered the school not at the initial value of 200 pounds, but at the initial value of 100 pounds. In terms of increasing strength, he surpasses Ji Kun. On the 35th day, Chuning's Bull Demon Power finally broke through to the 2nd level. At this point, his strength has reached 300 pounds. On the 63rd day, Chuning's strength reached 390 pounds, while Ji Kun only weighed 380 pounds. There is still 1 month left, and Chuning understands that as long as she breaks through to the third layer of bull demon power, 500 pounds is not a problem. On the contrary, Ji Kun was a bit anxious. On the 65th day. Chuning, let's go to the kitchen and buy some beef. Ji Kun wants to supplement his diet. The medicinal herbs have already been used up. Relying solely on the free meals provided by the kitchen, although there is also some meat, the amount of meat he takes is pitiful. He is afraid that he may not meet the requirement of 500 pounds in 3 months. Beef is a bone-strengthening and strengthening agent. Before coming, his cousin had told him that he could spend money to buy beef in the kitchen. You go, I'll let it go. Our family didn't prepare so much money. Chuning smiled and shook her head. The school provides meat and medicinal materials. He also saw many students buy them, but the price is nearly 10 times that outside. He only has 1 or 2 silver coins on his body. This money cannot even buy a bowl of beef of Lanzhou lammy and noodles in the school. Ji Kun fell silent. He knew that what Chuning was saying was true. After spending more than 2 months together day and night, he already knew about Chuning's family situation. At dinner, Ji Kun didn't come to the kitchen with Chuning. In the past, Chuning ate 8 bowls at a time, but this time he ate 10 bowls and gave himself a very full meal. After dinner, Chuning didn't rush back to the dormitory, but walked back from the kitchen to the A.class dormitory area. Students who are able to live in Class A are those who have achieved a weight of 250 pounds or more during the assessment, and each person lives in a separate room. For the 7 students living in Class A, it is not difficult to weigh 500 pounds in 3 months. Therefore, unlike Chuning and the other students living in Class B who work hard, Class A students will instead visit each other's doors for communication. Chuning pondered for a moment and knocked on the door of room number 6. Is that Brother Lin? Just a moment. A sound came from inside the door, and soon the door opened. The young man wearing a silk undershirt opened the door, but the smile on his face disappeared when he saw Chuning standing at the door. Who are you? What's up with knocking on my door? Brother I am a student from room B. Stop it. Jin interrupted Chuning's words directly. I'm not familiar with you, and I can't afford to hear you say, Brother If you have anything to say, please let me know. Chuning understood in her heart that in the minds of the students in room A, she was afraid that she did not even consider the students in room B as classmates. Master Chuning changed his title and said, You are a noble family. You only need to focus on practicing martial arts. How can you do the miscellaneous work of carrying water? I can help you, 1 or 2 silver at a time. Ji Kun chooses to buy beef supplements, and Chuning also needs to be proactive. If Mo Jin cannot break through the third layer for a long time, he also needs to rely on supplements and medicine. And after much thought, he could help these students in room A fetch water to make money. The miscellaneous servants of the school are not allowed to enter the dormitory area where the students live. This is what Chuning said in the last letter he sent to his family from the gatehouse. Even if someone in room B has money, they may still use it for themselves, while those in room A are not stressed and do not lack money. 1 or 2 silver coins. Jin frowned, naturally not lacking 1 or 2 silver coins. However, the servants who are responsible for cleaning the entire courtyard at home on weekdays don't even have 1 or 2 silver coins for a month. A silver or 2 is definitely nothing to you, young master Young master Zhang from room 5 of Jia has also entrusted this task to me. Chuning added, Jin didn't hesitate this time because he didn't deal with Zhang Song from room 5. The 2 families have some business conflicts in Ning County. Since Zhang Song has agreed to both, if he doesn't agree, it means that his family is not as good as the Zhang family. Come once a day in the future, here is 10 taels of silver. In order to surpass Zhang Song, Jin directly threw the silver ingot to Chuning. Chuning smiled and took it, thank you very much, young master he. Chuning happened to see the conflict between He Jin and Zhang Song during a meal in the kitchen. At that time, He Jin and Zhang Song almost got into a fight, and he remembered this scene in his heart, and now it happens to be useful. After receiving the money, Chuning worked on the spot, filling He Jin's water tank and 4 buckets with water, and then proceeded to knock on the door of other A.class students. A7, A5, A4, A3 room A2. Chuning knocked on the door. No one responded. Chuning frowned. Could it be that this person is not at home? The only female student in their group, Tang Ruowei, who ranked second in the assessment score, is staying in room A2. Don't knock. A woman's voice came from behind, and Chuning turned around. Tang Ruowei, dressed in a purple strong suit and with a beautiful figure, stood 10 meters behind him, looking at him with a complex expression. Tang Ruowei looked at Chuning. She had previously gone to the backyard to ask Lu Jiaoxi about the martial arts issues. When she returned, she saw a man standing in the A.shaped dormitory area wondering, which aroused her curiosity. She didn't speak up, but wanted to know what the man was going to do. Then she watched as the person knocked on He Jin's door, deceiving He Jin with 10 taels of silver, then deceiving Zhang Song with 20 taels of silver, and then taking the silver from other students. Zhang Gongzi, I have something to tell you first. I have to wait until I finish picking water for He Gongzi before I can pick it for you. He Gongzi gave me 10 taels of silver at once. Zhu Xiao, there's something I need to explain to you about the Shuyuan website www.jiaoxi.com. Mr. Zhang and Mr. He gave 30 taels of silver at once, and I have to pick water for them before I can pick it for you. Don't worry, I'm very agile and can pick it quickly. That's the script. I have already collected over 100 taels. Seeing someone pass by, Chuning is not at all embarrassed. It's not embarrassing to make money. Hey, there's nothing I can do either. My family is poor and not wealthy, and my strength doesn't meet the standard. If I don't earn some money, I'm afraid I won't be able to complete the assessment of 500 pounds in 3 months. Chuning had a worried expression on her face and suddenly said, Miss Tang has a kind heart, I don't know. Do you think you can enter the women's dormitory? Tang Ruowei interrupted Chuning as she knew what he was going to say next. Chuning's language is blocked, and when doing business, I have forgotten about this. It's not a modern situation where a young woman living alone has a blocked sewer and can call a worker to clear the sewer to come and clear it. I was rude. I also advise you not to knock on Zhao Qin's door. Zhao Qin dislikes being disturbed while practicing martial arts. If you knock on this door, you may not only lose money but also get beaten up. Thank you very much for Miss Tang's reminder. Chuning gratefully clenched her fists. To show her gratitude, I can deliver the water to the door for only half a tael of silver. Tang Ruowei. It's already a 50% discount, Chuning said sincerely. No need for your discount, I'll give you 1 or 2 silver. Tang Ruowei threw a money bag over, and Chuning caught it and felt the weight, laughing happily. Don't worry, Miss Tang. I guarantee you will be the first to use water. Tang Ruowei. So I feel honored because of this. Chapter 7. A letter to General Manager Huang. You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, leaving the A.shaped area, Chuning did not return to the dormitory, but turned to the gatehouse. Each student can write a letter here and ask the gatekeeper to help send it out. 2 months after coming to school, Chuning wrote 2 letters to his family and also wrote 1 letter to General Manager Huang. The content in the letter to the old lady is mostly about reporting safety to avoid her worries, while the letter to Mr. Huang mainly focuses on his own martial arts training progress in the school. Chuning regards himself as a poor college student, while Huang Zongchang is a kind-hearted person who donates himself to university. He shares his learning situation in school with the kind-hearted person, making them feel that the donation is not in vain and can also give them a sense of achievement. They don't necessarily want you to succeed, but at least you should show no gratitude. If you excel on this basis, it will be even more gratifying. After writing a letter to the old lady as usual, Chuning picked up his pen and wrote a second letter. Uncle Huang. Nephew Chuning Jingqi. As in the previous letter, I would like to express my gratitude to Uncle Huang for his help, which allowed me to practice martial arts in the school. After a few words of hesitation, I finally got to the main topic. I have been in school for 60 years now, and I know that learning martial arts is not easy. I have not dared to slack off and practice day and night. I am not as talented as my classmates. If I have doubts, I will seek guidance from them. When I am scolded by them, my expression will become more respectful and my courtesy will be more profound. I dare not say a word to reply. When they are pleased, I will ask them again. Therefore, although I am foolish, I have heard about my death. Sleeping on the road, enjoying no taste of fresh and fat. Those who share the same place are all embroidered with silk, wearing hats adorned with red tassels and precious ornaments, wearing a white jade ring around their waist, wearing a sword on the left, and wearing a stinky face on the right. Yi Ran is like a divine person, my nephew is wearing a robe and clothes in between, without any desire for pleasure. Those who have enough joy in it do not know whether their mouth and body are worshipped like humans. My nephew's diligence and difficulty are like this. ... After finishing writing, Ning paid the gatekeeper 5 silver coins and asked him to immediately deliver these 2 letters before walking back to the dormitory. As soon as I entered the dormitory, the smell of meat was strong. Ning swallowed a little, fortunately he had eaten very full this time. In the small courtyard, Ji Kun was scooping beef from the pot when he saw Ning coming back. He quickly greeted him and said, Ning, I bought a beef leg earlier and it's already cooked. Let's eat it together. I was very full in the kitchen. If I had known you had bought beef back, I would have eaten less. I really can't eat it now. Ning lifted her clothes and revealed her round belly. Ji Kun smiled and said, It's my fault. It's not me who made you eat so full. Lying in his own bed, although Ji Kun didn't make a sound while nibbling on the cow legs, the smell of meat couldn't be concealed. Ning looked at the ceiling of the wall and wrote this letter to General Manager Huang, half of which was also a genuine feeling. The student from the entire school probably comes from the poorest family. If you want to grow your strength quickly, you need to keep up with nutrition. The nutrition of this era is to eat meat. These students can pass the assessment, not to mention their family background, but at least they won't eat grass like themselves. Don't you envy me? That's bullshit. How could the author of Dongyang Ma Xing Su remember his classmates' clothing and food so clearly, if it weren't for envy? Ning simply closed his eyes and listened as Ji Kun gently sorted out the cow bones and walked out of the dormitory. He also sighed in his heart, afraid that his friendship with Ji Kun was about to come to an end. If I refuse today on the grounds of being full, what about tomorrow? If I had eaten the beef bought by Ji Kun myself. A meal or 2 is okay, but if there are more, Ji Kun may also have a lump in her heart. Although Ji Kun's family background is good, it cannot be considered excellent. The martial artists in their clan are only his cousin, not his own uncle. If he keeps not eating, Ji Kun will feel a bit uncomfortable and embarrassed eating beef alone in the dormitory. The gradual distance between the 2 is predetermined. It's not my own fault, nor is it Ji Kun's fault. The wrong thing is that I am too poor. On the 70th day, Ning's strength reached 410 pounds. In the past 7 days, it has only increased by 20 pounds. Going on like this for 3 months to 500 pounds is a bit dangerous. We need to rely on dietary supplements to break through to the 3rd level of bull demon power. Ning went to the kitchen and bought a beef leg, which was priced at 30 taels, 10 times higher than the price outside. And half a month ago, a cow leg was only 20 taels. Medicinal herbs are even more expensive, so Chuning asked about the price of one medicinal herb and left. He could only sigh that what he bought was not as good as what he sold. The owner of the kitchen has figured out the psychological changes of the students. At the beginning, the students all had confidence in themselves. Beef and medicinal herbs were not selling well, after all, the prices were so high. But as the 3-month period approaches, those students whose strength growth is not ideal start to be anxious. Even if the price is high, they have to buy. Just like a crazy gambler, he dares to borrow even though he knows it's a high interest rate, because as long as he wins a lot, he will get back his capital. Chuning put the beef leg in the pot to cook, but didn't call Ji Kun because Ji Kun didn't go back to the dormitory anymore. When Ji Kun first started eating beef legs, he felt embarrassed to eat alone in front of Chuning. He ran to dormitory A8 and ate with Huang in room A. He came back to stay at night. According to Ji Kun himself, Huang Chen's father is also a martial artist and has a good relationship with his cousin. But when Ji Kun saw Chuning fetch water for Huang Chen, he didn't come back that night. Chuning came to fetch water for Huang Chen several times and met Ji Kun, but Ji Kun also ignored him. Chuning understood in her heart that Ji Kun felt ashamed to be in the same dormitory as herself. After all, with so many students, only oneself can do the miscellaneous work that belongs to the servants. However, Chuning didn't care either, because he had already anticipated this outcome and didn't hold any grudges against Ji Kun. This is the way the world thinks. Like those literati in ancient times, even if they were poor and destitute, they had to rely on people to provide food. They were unwilling to work as accountants or engage in small businesses because poverty could be considered a low point. However, if they were to do business or work for merchants, they would be willing to be inferior. The difference in ideological cognition is not related to people. After 4 days of work, Chuning's strength reached 440 pounds. Still hasn't broken through the 3rd layer of bull demon power. There are still 15 days left until the assessment. I don't have money to buy beef legs anymore. The people from the A.class brand have already given the money at the end of the month in one go, so it is impossible to give it again. Those few are not fools either. In case they fail the 3-month assessment and are eliminated, the extra money given will be wasted. If there is no assessment, Chuning is not in a hurry. He went to Shuyuan www.jiaoxi.com because even if he doesn't eat beef, his strength steadily increases by 3 pounds every day, and he can still weigh 1,000 pounds a year. The key is that the school has an assessment, and if he fails to reach 500 pounds, it means he will have to take a bucket and leave. The result of leaving with a bucket is that one cannot go to the yamen as a servant and cannot obtain the last 3 layers of bull demon power. Do you want to go find Lu Jiaoxi and cheat again? Chuning muttered to herself, but then denied this method. If he hadn't been seen through by those teachers, he might have been able to do it with Huang Zongchang's tiger skin, but those teachers knew that he had no deep friendship with Huang Zongchang, and the school wouldn't let him cheat anymore. Huangfu. Huang Zhongtai rode his horse back to the mansion, and his servants came forward to lead the horse. As the butler walked, he reported to him about his absence from Ning County for a month, as well as some major events that occurred in the county town. After reporting, the butler hesitated a bit. Huang Zhongtai noticed the butler's hesitant expression and asked, "Is there anything else?" "Master, the school has sent another letter from Chuning." The butler hesitated because a month ago, the gatekeeper sent a letter to the school, saying it was sent by Chuning. After the old man picked it up and glanced at it, there was no further message left. "Oh, let me take a look." Huang Zhongtai walked inward while speaking, and the butler quickly handed the letter over. Huang Zhongtai opened the letter and just glanced at it, his footsteps stopped and his face showed a moving expression. "Master." The butler saw his master stop and was curious about what he had written in his heart to make him so moved. This son has great perseverance. Huang Zhongtai sighed and instead of going to the bedroom, turned around and walked towards the study. P.S. The signing status has been changed, please add a new chapter to celebrate. Chapter 8. One letter returns. You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, on the 85th day. Chuning's strength reached 470 pounds, but Nyo Mo Jin still did not break through the third layer. In the past few days, he has come to Lu Jiaoxi's yard several times, wanting to get in and take a breath, but every time he stands at the door, he never goes in. He still holds a glimmer of luck. Perhaps tomorrow, Bull Demon Power will break through to the third level. Now, this hope has been completely shattered. Returning to the courtyard where Lu Jiaoxi lived, Chuning didn't hesitate to knock on the door this time. Just as he was about to pull up the knocker with his hand, the courtyard door opened on its own. Lu Jiaoxi stood inside the door, carrying a package in his hand, quietly watching Chuning. Even though Chuning's face had already been cultivated thick enough in his past life, facing Lu Jiaoxi's eyes that could penetrate the human heart, Chuning's temperature gradually increased and he felt a slight fever. After a long time, when Chuning was about to speak, Lu Junshan said calmly, "Here is a letter from General Huang for you, and the things in this package were also sent to you by General Huang. The school does not allow things to be sent from outside, otherwise those expensive medicinal herbs and meat cannot be sold. However, Mr. Huang's identity is different. If he wants to send things, the school will not stop him." Chuning's pupils slightly dilated, and then he realized, "Thank you, Professor Lu. Take it back." After receiving the letter and package handed over by Lu Jiaoxi, Chuning turned around and left. If you have doubts or are puzzled, seek guidance from them. If you are scolded by them, the more respectful their expressions and manners become, and they dare not say a word in reply. When they are pleased, ask them again. The article is written well, and if you don't understand, come and ask me directly in the future. 10 meters away, Chuning's body stiffened when he heard Lu Jiaoxi's voice floating behind him. He knew that it was General Huang who had informed Lu Jiaoxi of the contents of his letter. "Lu Jiaoxi, this is a misunderstanding." He thought he had been wronged by Chen Jiaoxi, but this was just to show respect for the original author. Chuning turned around and bowed respectfully, "The student understands." As Lu Jiaoxi watched Chuning's departure, his eyes narrowed slightly. At first, he didn't have a good opinion of Chuning. He only thought Chuning was more clever when he gave a hint, but later he didn't take it to heart. Until today, I received a letter from General Manager Huang, in which he informed himself of Chuning's letter to him and also attached a few heartfelt paragraphs from Chuning's letter. This sentence moved Mr. Huang, but after reading it, it resonated with him. Unlike Huang Zongchang, who originally came from a privileged family background, when he learned martial arts, his family was also poor, and he could better appreciate the taste of Chuningshin. The hardships behind can still be overcome, but the dignity before is extremely fragile. Of course, the most important point is that Chuning's progress is also evident. From only 100 pounds at the beginning, he has now reached nearly 500 pounds, and this growth has exceeded half of the students in the school. Chuning returned to the dormitory with excitement and directly opened the package. When she saw the medicinal herbs inside, her eyes turned slightly red. It has been many years since his emotions fluctuated so violently. In my past life, there was only such a large fluctuation in emotions when I made my first bucket of gold and the company went public. The former only knows how difficult it is and how much injustice he has suffered for this first bucket of gold, while the latter is a reward for his hard work over the years. Are you influenced by the original owner? Chuning then smiled and shook his head, denying the idea. It has nothing to do with his original identity, but he clearly realizes that even if he has a lifespan of 10,000 years and the energy to bear fruit, the future will not be too bad. However, if he cannot continue to enroll, he will waste a long period of time. Longevity does not mean that time can be wasted. Long life is not just about living day by day. Why not live a good life from the beginning? To live a good life, joining the Yamen as a business assistant is currently the most ideal and secure way out. His understanding of this world comes from the original owner, but the original owner is just a young man living at the bottom. Do he really understand this world? In the era of highly transparent information in previous lives, ordinary people still do not know that there are two circles in the world, one that ordinary people will never touch in their lifetime. In that circle, there is a completely different way of dealing with things compared to ordinary people's circles. A meal of alcohol may determine the ownership of a position that an ordinary person cannot climb in their lifetime. A single sentence can determine the life and death of a company. It may cause a huge upheaval and ruin many people's lives, but a single sentence of admitting defeat can reveal all of this. In the past life, what about this world? Before clarifying these, entering the public gate is the most stable. Because this represents joining the discourse power of the world. Taking back his thoughts, Chuning took a portion of medicinal herbs to fry and opened a letter from General Huang to him. Mr. Huang's reply letter is not many words, expressing that he already knows that learning martial arts is not easy, and he has sent some medicinal herbs to support him. The simpler the content, the more Chuning became convinced that his relationship with General Huang had become closer, because there were fewer clichés and grandiose words. Only those who are close can speak in this way. After an hour, the medicinal herbs were cooked and Chuning began to take a medicinal bath. On the 86th day, the 87th day, on the 88th day that night, Chuning sat in the bathtub, still operating the mind technique of Mo-Jin. The long unseen heat flow appeared from Dantian, no longer just flowing to Baihui above the head, but slowly flowing throughout the body. Chuning's body also began to heat up, even exceeding the temperature of the medicine, and the medicine was absorbed by Chuning's skin pores several times faster than before. This is an experience that Chuning has never experienced before. This operation lasted for 3 weeks. Pop. As the sound of firecrackers exploding echoed through Chuning's body, the remaining liquid in the bathtub splashed out. Bones ringing and skin shaking. This is the sign that Mo-Jin has entered the 3rd level. Chuning walked out of the bathtub and looked at the stone pillars in the yard. Her gaze did not stop at the 500-pound stone pillar, but directly at the 550-pound stone pillar. With both hands grabbing, he lifted the stone pillar directly. 50 pounds. In the last 2 days, his strength finally exceeded the bottom line by 500 pounds. But this is not the biggest gain. The biggest gain is that after entering the 3rd layer of Bull Demon Power, it is not just about simply increasing strength. There is a heat flow inside his body, and wherever this heat flows, the strength of the body part will increase. No wonder the school requires 500 pounds to continue enrollment. Chuning had a clear understanding in her heart. For the first 3 months in school, she continuously practiced Mo-Jin and broke through to the 3rd level. Only by breaking through to the 3rd level can she cultivate martial arts. Professor Liu should be teaching martial arts. March has ended. The Dragon King returns to his throne. A crooked smile. All students will be assessed in order. Qin Jiaoxi's words awakened Chuning from his wild thoughts. Looking at the only stone pillar in front of the queue, Chuning knew that he had guessed correctly and that no one could cheat in this assessment. At the forefront of the queue were 7 people from Room A who easily lifted the stone pillars, followed by Room B. One of the 2 students in Grade 1 failed. The failed student stood on the side with a face full of unwillingness, and he was just 2 breaths away from success. Teach me, please give me another chance. I will definitely succeed this time. My family sold all the fields for me to enter the school to practice martial arts. If I fail, I will have no face to meet my family. The words of the students have made many students in Yizifeng feel uneasy, because their situation is not necessarily their own. Not to mention smashing pots and selling iron at home, at least half of the family's resources were used to support them in practicing martial arts. If they were eliminated this time, they would indeed have no face going home to see their parents and relatives. Ning can understand that these students and their parents have made such a decision, just like college students in the 1980s and 1990s. As long as their children are admitted to college, they will kneel down and borrow money from others to send them to college. Going to college means breaking away from impoverished rural areas and moving to cities, with a stable and dignified career. In the Liang dynasty, the power of officials was greater than that of ancient dynasties. After all, it was a country that relied on fists to speak. If they were not convinced, they would suppress you, and if they could not suppress them, they would recruit you. Studying in school for 6 months, even if it's not someone like Ning who can take on the top job, the way out is much better than studying for only 3 months. Unfortunately, there was no change in Jiaoxi's expression, as they had seen such scenes too many times. With a wave of his hand, a servant came forward and dragged the student away. I hope you keep a decent reputation for yourself, don't be thrown out of school, and continue with the assessment. Jiaoxi's words left a chill in the hearts of the students present who had not yet been assessed. The 2 candidates who went up next still failed. However, with the lesson learned from the previous one who was dragged out of school, these 2 students managed to control their emotions and silently returned to the dormitory to tidy up their clothes. In front of Ning was Ji Kun, with a confident smile on her face. She walked up to the stone pillar and easily lifted it up. Ning, stand out. As Jiaoxi spoke these words, the eyes of all the students at Jiaoxi.com fell on Ning. Although every student who came forward for the assessment would receive attention from everyone in the room, their gaze towards Ning clearly showed different emotions. For the students of Class A, Ning is seen as a poor and unwilling pitiful person, while among the students of Class B, Ning is willing to be inferior. Do you think you can succeed by carrying water for people? That's too naive. Among these people's gazes, Ji Kun's gaze is the most complex. He lives in the same dormitory as Ning, but Ning pretends to be aloof and doesn't eat his beef. In the blink of an eye, he runs to work as a servant to earn money and buy meat. Isn't this slapping his face? This is the reason why Ning made him angry and indifferent, angry and hypocritical. Making oneself so lowly and unable to pass the assessment, waiting for a moment to be ridiculed by everyone. Ning caught the eyes of all the students on site and silently walked up to the stone pier. He held the stone pier handle with both hands and lifted it up to his head in a proper manner. 1 breath, 2 breaths, through. When Jiaoxi said, through, the atmosphere at the scene suddenly became quiet. Zhao Qin's pupils contracted as he stood with both hands on his back, and then resumed his chin position at a 45-degree angle, gazing into the sky. Tang Ruowei blinked her big eyes lightly, and Ning's performance surprised her. Zhang Song and He Jin, among the students in Class A, had expressions that were somewhat as ugly as stepping on dog poop. A guy who had already been distinguished from his subordinates in their hearts passed the assessment and became their classmate. The students in Class B room were all mouth opening, and the clown in their eyes actually passed. Ji Kun. Chapter 9. The wind of youth is more expensive than gold. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, in this eerie atmosphere, the assessment continued. In the end, only 14 out of 36 students lifted 500 pounds of stone pillars and were able to stay in the college. The 22 eliminated students went back to their dormitories to pack up their belongings, pick up buckets, and leave. Jiaoxi left after the assessment was over, while Ning and the other students who passed were still on the martial arts stage. Classmates, starting from today, we will be staying at the school for 2.5 years. I have booked a banquet in the kitchen, and I hope all of you will show your respect and get to know each other. Jinlu opened his mouth with a smile. He was a student of Room B and had been busy with this banquet since he could lift 500 pounds of stone pillars 7 days ago. The prices in schools have a characteristic that will drop after assessment. Although they are still more expensive than outside, they are not a big deal for these students. Otherwise, for the next 2.5 years, even the richest man in Ning County cannot afford such high prices. After every 3 months of assessment, it is also an old tradition for the remaining students to have meals together. In the minds of these remaining students, those who have been eliminated are not considered their classmates because their potential and level are different. It's cruel, but it's also very realistic. I thought everyone would agree, but what Jinlu didn't expect was that his proposal was rejected. I still have to practice martial arts, I don't have time. Ji Yang was the first to leave. I don't have time either. To gather you all, I need to go back to the medicinal bath. The students of Class A have left one after another, and even the students of Class B are looking for reasons to evade. Jin Li's face was full of confusion. What is the situation? Chuning looked at Jin Li's puzzled expression and was indeed happy. This guy couldn't figure out the situation, but his heart was like a mirror, knowing why these people were leaving. Not willing to sit at the same table as oneself. In their eyes, they saw themselves as servants. Now that they were flipping over, the thought of sitting at a table with them made them feel uneasy. Tang Ruowei didn't mind at first, but when she saw that everyone else had left, she congratulated Chuning and then left. Brother Jin, are we going to eat together? Chuning looked at her only remaining self and suggested to Jinlu. Jin Li's mouth twitched slightly. He was not a fool. At first, he didn't react, but now he understands why everyone didn't come. He has already paid the money for the banquet to the kitchen, so it's not easy to refuse Chuning directly. Although everyone has some grudges towards Chuning, since Chuning can lift 500 pounds, there is no need to engage in bad relationships if they are not friendly. But if he goes to eat with Chuning, what will others think of him? My stomach hurts a bit, so. I've already given you the money. Chuning, if you want to eat, go eat it yourself. That's really a pity. Don't worry, I won't let Brother Jin's money go to waste. Chuning looked at Jin Li's departing figure and whispered, Brother Jin is really a good person. The next day, it will be sunny. The sun shone brightly, and Chuning and others stood at the martial arts arena, their eyes fixed on Lu Junshan with excitement. After 3 months of practicing martial arts, your strength has surpassed that of ordinary people, but just having brute force is not enough. True warriors need to learn to control their own strength and maximize their own strength. Chuning agreed with Lu Junshan's words in her heart. Their current strength, in plain terms, is the strength of lifting weights. In the past, the strength of an ordinary person's punch was at most twice that of lifting weights. Professional boxers can unleash 3 times the strength of weightlifting through training in force, speed, and the coordination of various muscles throughout the body. Starting from today, I will pass on Bull Demon Fist to you. You can watch it first. As the words fell, Lu Junshan stood tall and straight, and his overall aura changed at this moment. As he stepped out with his right foot, Chuning and others seemed to see a huge mad cow, lifting its hooves and rushing towards them. 2 students instinctively took a few steps back. Lu Jun twisted his hips on the mountainside, but turned to one side. Then, his long arm swung out, making a loud noise that was heart-wrenching. Bang! Everyone didn't notice when Lu Junshan had already moved 5 meters away, and his fist fell on a 1,000-pound stone pier next to the martial arts arena. Stone chips splashed, and many students were splashed onto their bodies. However, at this moment, they ignored the pain and stared intently at the 1,000-pound stone pier, their breathing becoming rapid. The stone mound shattered into more than 10 pieces. Sleeping slot. Chuning couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, her eyes fixed straight. Although the father of the original owner was also a martial artist, he had not shown any martial arts skills in front of the original owner. No wonder the great Liang dynasty only had martial artists, and the school's teachings had such strength. So, what kind of scholars, what kind of reasoning, and convincing people with martial ethics were enough? Other students on site, including Lu Junshan, followed Chu Ning's words and looked at him one after another. Although they don't know what lying trough means, they still know the meaning of fuck, which is not a good thing. Upon seeing this, Chu Ning quickly added, with all his might, the students were too excited and a bit incoherent while teaching. Is it difficult to lift mountains and rivers? Lu Junshan repeated Chu Ning's words, which sounded very comfortable, but his mouth said, it's nonsense to cultivate. Only our founding ancestor can achieve the power to pull out mountains and rivers. Yes, students are aware of their mistakes and dare not speak nonsense anymore. Lu Junshan glanced at the excited crowd. He had come over like this before and knew what these students were thinking at the moment. Without leaving a trace, he said directly, the bull demon fist has been practiced to the extreme, and its strength can reach 10 times its strength. Even if it's just a small achievement, it can reach 5 times its strength. Starting from today, in addition to practicing the last 3 layers of bull demon power, you also need to practice bull demon fist. In the next half hour, Lu Junshan taught the latter 3 layers of Nyo Mo Jin and all the moves of Nyo Mo fist to students such as Chu Ning. A true sentence is a false book. Jiaoxi.com. There are not many mnemonic techniques for the last 3 layers of Nyo Mo fist, and everyone quickly remembers them. As for fist techniques, they cannot be practiced overnight, but rather a long-term process. After Lu Junshan left, the other students also returned to their dormitories and eliminated a group of students. The remaining 14 people could each live in a separate dormitory. Before returning to the dormitory, Chu Ning went to the gatehouse and wrote 2 letters. One for the old lady, and the other for Mr. Huang. I gave the gatekeeper 100 yuan and asked him to help bring 5 taels of silver home. This is all the silver left on him. Chu Ning knew in his heart that those students would definitely not let him carry water anymore. Without money, even if medicinal herbs and meat were cheaper, he couldn't afford them. In the next 3 months, he will be practicing Buddhism. The Buddhist tradition does not mean that he does not practice martial arts or boxing, but rather does not set any goals for himself. His goal has been achieved, and the next step is to wait for 6 months to go to the yamen to eat at the government house. It's not that he doesn't want to stay in school all the time, objective conditions don't allow it. The old lady is the only one at home, and she has to earn money to support the family. There is no way to make money in school. Secondly, his martial arts aptitude is not particularly high, and he cannot achieve a stunning feat. The energy of the evergreen fruit only allows him to flow slowly. After leaving the school at the end of 6 months, there is a relationship with General Manager Huang, and it is the safest way to be assigned to a job in a place with abundant resources. The wind of youth galloping is more expensive than gold. It is because young people are weightless and their lifespan is limited. He is now holding the wind in his left hand and gold in his right hand. Hold the double rocket, Tianhu start, as long as you keep it steady, you will not lose. P.S. I changed the name of my roommate, and I took it. I am a true fan and said I am Xiaoxi. Chapter 10. Surprisingly attacking others is the way to succeed. You are listening at novel full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, the leaves have turned green and yellow, yellow and withered. The boys in the martial arts arena, wearing thin clothes, were shouting loudly and fighting against each other. Practicing boxing requires practical combat. Chu Ning's opponent is Tang Ruowei, not chosen by him, but not by him. 3 months have passed, and the students in the school have not significantly reduced their rejection of him. Everyone has ignored him when selecting opponents to prove their boxing skills. Tang Ruowei is too strong again. Only Zhao Qin can steadily win over Tang Ruowei in the entire school, but Zhao Qin has a strong male tendency and is unwilling to fight women. Others are even less willing, losing to a woman is a bit embarrassing. So in the end, it will only be Chuning and Tang Ruowei fighting. The result was that Chuning was abused for 3 months. In terms of strength, Chuning has surpassed Tang Ruowei because he steadily increases his strength by 4 pounds every day. When he reaches the 700-pound level, Tang Ruowei's strength is only 650 pounds. But in terms of mental skills, Tang Ruowei has broken through to the 4th level of Bull Demon Power, while he is still in the 3rd level. The 4th layer of Bull Demon Power allows Tang Ruowei to unleash 3 times the power with Bull Demon Fist, while she can only achieve 2 times at present, which widens the gap. Not only is there a difference in explosive power, but there is also a difference in speed. No matter how you fight, you always lose. Chuning, if you say you want to defeat me today, don't just talk big. Tang Ruowei looked at Chuning. Last time, Chuning was defeated by herself as usual, but unlike usual, she let go of her harsh words and said she would definitely defeat her next time. This is Chuning's first time saying this, which made her somewhat hopeful. Don't worry, I'll definitely give you a surprise today. To be honest, even after being beaten up by Tang Ruowei so many times, Chuning's heart was filled with evil anger. As an old man, I have always had the privilege of suppressing women. How can I be constantly suppressed by women? Well, it's not impossible to press, but it's not this kind of pressure. Look at the move. Chuning took the lead, lowering his head and punching with his right hand. Tang Ruowei shifted her left foot halfway, avoiding Chuning's punch, and turned her right hand into a knife to strike Chuning's right arm. At the moment when Tang Ruowei struck with a knife, Chuning withdrew her fist and forcefully swung her left foot against the front arched back and left arm towards Tang Ruowei. The two of them fought back and forth, and Chuning knew in her heart that Tang Ruowei had not exerted all her strength. This little girl was quite good, and if she had exerted all her strength, she would have collapsed in a few moments. That's not practicing martial arts with each other, I'm just a sandbag. He's not a licking dog. Even if Tang Ruowei looks pretty, he wouldn't treat people like a sandbag. After fighting back and forth for more than 10 rounds, Chuning's forehead was already sweating, and Tang Ruowei was fine except for her messy hair. Chuning, is this what you said about being able to defeat me? Tang Ruowei began to exert her strength, and Chuning retreated step by step. As she was about to withdraw from the martial arts arena, Chuning suddenly looked behind Tang Ruowei and said, Lu Jiaoxi. Tang Ruowei frowned. Isn't it normal for Lu Jiaoxi to appear? Previously, when everyone was fighting in the martial arts arena every 3 days, Lu Jiaoxi would come over to watch and give guidance, so there was no need to shout out. But seeing Chuning's strange expression, Tang Ruowei turned her head to take a curious look. That's when we're waiting. Seeing Tang Ruowei turn her head, Chuning instantly exerted force all over her body and clenched her right fist towards Tang Ruowei's chest. Despicable, sneak attack. Tang Ruowei was angry but not panicked. Although she had just been distracted and looked behind her, she deliberately distanced herself from Chuning. Faced with Chuning's punch, she didn't retreat but instead advanced, striking back with the same punch. Then, Tang Ruowei saw Chuning suddenly smile at the corner of her mouth, her right hand clenching her fist suddenly loosen, and the north wind howled. Then, in her enlarged pupils, a yellow mist could be seen rushing towards her face. Cough cough. The pungent smell, combined with the fiery pupils, made Tang Ruowei instinctively close her eyes and retract her fist. When she realized it, she immediately forced her eyes open, but it was already too late. Chuning's fist was less than an inch away from her face. Chuning withdrew her fist and turned around before Tang Ruowei could speak. This is a lesson for you, and also a lesson for me in this world. Turning his back to Tang Ruowei, Chuning said these words in his most magnetic voice. I think in Tang Ruowei's heart, he should be very proud at this moment. Why are you running so fast? You're afraid I'll beat you up. Listening to Tang Ruowei's words behind her, Chu Ning's mouth twitched. Although she was walking faster, why did she turn into a runner? As Chu Ning walked further and further without stopping, Tang Ruowei couldn't help but shout, "Come back, I won't beat you." Lu Jiaoxi hasn't pointed out our shortcomings yet. But Chu Ning still hasn't turned back. This is indeed his last lesson for Tang Ruowei. Practical combat not only relies on fist techniques, but sometimes requires various means to be used in conjunction with unexpected attacks, which is the way. No need to shout, Chu Ning will leave the school today and will not practice martial arts in the future. Lu Junshan, who was walking around the martial arts arena watching the students fight, spoke up. His words stunned Tang Ruowei and also made the other students stop. Chu Ning's father was a constable before his death. After studying for 6 months, Chu Ning could work as a clerk in the government office, Lu Junshan explained. As early as yesterday, Chu Ning came to find him and informed him about leaving the school. To be honest, he is a bit regretful. Chu Ning's martial arts talent is not high, and his cultivation of the bull demon force mental technique progress is also at the bottom among the students. However, Chu Ning's enthusiasm for practicing martial arts has not been affected, and the most crucial thing is that his strength is not growing slowly. Zhaozhuiyuan.com If Chu Ning had studied in the school for 3 years, even if he couldn't break through to become a martial arts master, he could still break through to become a martial arts master within 5 years after leaving the school. He had intended to dissuade, but Chu Ning's words convinced him. Teaching, leaving the school doesn't mean I've given up learning martial arts. It's just that I have an old lady at home to take care of, and with the permission of the yamen, I can take care of her and also have the money to buy some medicinal herbs to practice martial arts. Even if I break through martial arts a few years later, the students still think it's worth it. For several years, those children of the privileged cannot afford to waste it because they want to climb higher realms, but for martial artists from poor families, martial arts is already a lifelong pursuit. Becoming a martial artist, changing one's family background, and nurturing the next generation. This is the path that poor warriors should choose. Isn't he also following this path himself? Why stop Chu Ning? He should have left long ago, just because of his talent. Staying in school is also a waste of time. Who said it's not? Every time I practice, I get beaten. If I were him, he wouldn't have the courage to stay in school. A student murmured softly, and Tang Ruowei coldly glanced at these people as she listened to their words. Chu Ning's martial arts qualifications may not be high, but his strength is definitely not weak. Every time she defeats Chu Ning, she is always doing her best. Once she controls her strength and speed to be equal to Chu Ning, she is always at a disadvantage. Because Chu Ning's attacks were always unexpected, coming from places she couldn't imagine. The most important thing is that she has been making progress, but still has to give it her all every time to defeat Chu Ning. Doesn't that also indicate Chu Ning's progress? These guys who look down on Chu Ning don't know that they are no match for Chu Ning at all.